Tonight I wanted to take a quick look at this video because it was very much in keeping with a lot of the things that we were saying earlier in this series. We spoke about the devil influencing the world on two different levels. We spoke about the devil influencing the world on a grand scale, where 1 John chapter 5, the Bible says that the whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. Basically meaning that Satan has influence over all of the kingdoms, countries in the world. In Luke chapter 4, we saw Satan tempting Jesus in the wilderness. And one of the temptations that he offered to Jesus was, he said to Jesus, "All of these things I will give you if you will bow down and worship me." And by all of these things, he was referring to all of the kingdoms of the world. He says, "All of these kingdoms have been delivered to me, and I give them to whoever I will. And I will give them to you if you bow down and worship me." So, again, that's another scripture verse that references the fact that Satan had influence and control over all the kingdoms of the world. So his influence goes out into the world. Now, we've looked at a number of different characteristics of the devil, but ultimately what we can see is that how does his influence go out through the world? Well, it goes out in several different ways on many different levels. One of the ways that it goes out through the world is by him lying to leaders and leaders lying to us. One of the ways that his influence goes out into the world is through schools, through entertainment, through education, through corporate interests in people and in lives. For instance, corporations trying to push an agenda on us in some cases, corporations trying to take advantage of people by giving them poor food, poor medicine, poor education, poor, you name it. And the devil being able to kill people, destroy lives, harass people, confuse people through these different entities. So the devil is working behind the scenes, pulling on strings, working through the kingdoms of the world. He preaches a certain message, he preaches a certain propaganda, and he exposes his doctrines through his lies and his deceptions. And he is operating through all the nations of the world. Okay? But at the very same time, we saw the devil entering Judas. So the Bible says, and the devil entered Judas. And what did he do having entered Judas? He went down to the Pharisees and he had a discussion with the Pharisees how they might betray Jesus. So he said, okay, give me 30 pieces of silver and I will try to arrange a scenario where Jesus is not in front of the multitude, because if the Pharisees tried to take away Jesus in front of the multitude, there were many in the multitude that might have had a problem with that, and they might have attacked the Pharisees and overrun them. So the Pharisees weren't so keen on capturing Jesus when there was a big crowd around him. They wanted to get a more secluded type of arrangement. So they arranged with Judas, because obviously Judas used to work with Jesus and the disciples, and they arranged with Judas for Judas to get Jesus in a more secluded environment so that they can capture him. But that deal that Judas made with the Pharisees was as a result of the devil entering into Judas. And we see that in the scriptures in John. Then we have Matthew chapter 16, where we have the devil influencing Peter. Now, Peter, by and large, is a proper Christian. He believes in Christ and he's doing the best that he can to live for God. But in somewhat of a weak moment, when he was somewhat anxious and afraid and worried about the fact that Jesus could actually die and that he could no longer be there with them healing and preaching and teaching, and that you would die. And Jesus told him, "Get thee behind me, Satan, for you value the things of men and not the things of God." So in essence, what was happening is that even though Peter is a good man in general, Satan was able to attach himself, if you will, to Peter and get those words out of Peter based upon the fact that Peter was fearful. He kind of attached himself to Peter's fears and anxieties so that he can ride that wave, if you will, that emotional, spiritual wave, if you will, and get a few words in. And Jesus recognized those words as satanic words and coming from Satan and not coming from Peter. And right throughout the New Testament, we see that there are demons entering into people, causing them to be sick, causing them to be blind, causing them to be lame, causing them to be bound. The epileptic in Matthew chapter 17 caused the boy to convulge and to go into the water. And the Bible says he goes into the fire and into the water. So demons were actually in people doing things and harassing the people or tormenting the people. Right, so basically in the New Testament, we were seeing the devil interacting with people individually. He entered into Judas. He influenced Peter's speech. Several demons entered into the man, Matthew chapter 8. And we saw different demons and different devils entering into men, causing them to be sick and influencing their lives. So when people who are not believers or who are atheists claim that, the Bible is just a storybook, it's not real, spirits aren't real, demonic activity isn't real, it's all just a hoax, it's all just brainwashing, it's fables and stories. It's hard to convince them, hey, this stuff isn't fables and stories, it's real stuff. But they don't like the Bible and they don't like the Christian message. And so anything associated with the Bible or the Christian message comes off to them as fake, phony, untrue, unreliable, etc. Well, tonight I just want to take a quick look at a video here with some people discussing demonic activity happening in people by their own admission, by their own testimony. And these are not Christians. These are worldly people clearly advocating to invite devils and demons into their lives. And these people are primarily in the acting business, right? In Hollywood, who are doing acting and in some cases music, in some cases television work, not necessarily films, but television, etc., right? So let's take a look at these testimonies in a sense, and let's see how it goes.
All right, let's get into this. Everybody's excited to get into this. We have a guest on our show again. Leah has been joining us for the last couple of episodes, and she came out of the New Age movement into Christianity. We heard her testimony. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check out some of the other videos in our YouTube page. And so we're excited to have you on the show today. I wanted to do this show with her here because Hollywood has a lot of connection to the New Age movement.
Really?
So, yeah, this might be a shocker for some of you, but hold on to your seats. Many of you have probably heard of Aleister Crowley, right? Yeah. Yep. So I kind of want to just set the stage with this. If you don't know that much about Aleister Crowley, he's kind of like the modern version of the most occultic person. He used a lot of magic and sorcery, and Hollywood's been obsessed with this guy for a long time. He was on the Beatles cover. There's a lot of connections between modern day movies and his writing, but he wrote a book.
Can you define the occult in like a sentence?
Sure. The occult is really using supernatural means, magic, spells, sorcery, and specifically to get what you want in this world. A lot of what we heard from Leah and her talking about the New Age movement is really like The Secret and really dealing with thinking about yourself and how you could manifest those things. This is kind of like that, but with sort of like up a few notches kind of a thing, Okay. So he wrote a book called Magic and Practice and Theory. Listen to what he says. There are 3 main methods for invoking any deity. So you want to invoke a god into your life. He said the third method is the dramatic and perhaps the most attractive at all. Certainly it is to the artist's temperament, for it appeals to the imagination through his aesthetic sense. Let me put that in layman's terms for you. If you want to invoke a spirit into your life, he's saying that one of the 3 great ways to do this is through acting.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Hollywood is very into this guy. Socrates, he wrote a lot about the muse. What is a muse, do you know?
An inspiration, right?
It's an inspiration,
inspires you.
Yeah, what gives you your inspiration? And this is what he says. In like manner, the muse, first of all, inspires men herself because they are inspired and possessed. They are simply inspired to utter that which the muse impels them to do. And you talked a little bit about this on the show. It's like, you've got these voices that are talking to you and inspiring you to do this or to do that, right?
And kind of showing you a slideshow of some new thing or whatever,
Right. So Socrates is saying the same thing. For not by art or by knowledge do you say what you say, but by possession.
Wow.
Whoa.
Which is kind of an interesting idea that he was bringing out. This came from a book called Actors on Acting. Now, I'm going to go over some history, okay? So this you may or may not have ever heard of these kind of actors. These are well before your guys' time, and well before ours, actually, contrary to maybe your belief. Have you ever heard of Rudolph Valentino?
Heard of.
No.
Okay,
like I know the
Rudolph
name.
Valentino was like the Brad Pitt of the 1920s. You have heard of
Black
Brad
and
Pitt.
white Brad Pitt.
Okay, you know who Brad Pitt is. Okay, good. We're on the same
The
page
black
here.
and white Brad Pitt.
Yes, literally. This guy was literally so immensely famous. His movies were all about like passion and love, and he would always get the girl, and he was like this ladies' man, right? And when Rudolph Valentino would go out in public, people were so obsessed with him that there was these crowds that would form around him, and he often had to walk around with police officers because it was like riots would almost happen, right? This guy was immensely famous. But what people don't realize is that actually the movies that Valentino made were from his wife Natasha, who was a huge spiritualist. So listen to this quote. Every night, Valentino's wife, Natasha, would hold a seance calling forth for the spirit world to help her in her creative undertaking. They would, with a pen and paper in hand, she would go into a trance and she would start writing, okay? After the outpourings were typed out, they were brought to the set the next day and given to the director, and that's what the movies that were
Oh
made.
my goodness.
So if you go on YouTube and you look at the movies that Valentino made, those scripts were
Directly
literally
from the
handed from the demonic world.
Wow.
A script written in a day by automatic writing, and the human mind can't even make that happen. But
Yeah.
these demons have already had it planned out. Who's gonna allow us to write through them?
Right.
And they
So-
were like a team. Who does that remind you of in the sports world?
What?
Where the wife is like doing these spiritual
Oh, that was
practices.
he's a big
who was
NFL
that?
player. Hold on, he's
Yeah,
a
he said
quarterback.
His wife was a witch or something.
Yeah, what was his
Oh,
name?
are you talking about Brady?
Oh my goodness, Brady. Yes.
Any superstitions going into the game? Any special thing you carried into the game on Sunday that you had tucked away somewhere?
I did. I always, I've learned a lot from my wife over the years. She's so about the power of intention, and believing things that are really going to happen. And she always makes a little altar for me at the game because she just wills it so much. And so she put together a little altar for me that I could bring with pictures of my kids. And I have these little special stones and healing stones and protection stones. And she has me wear a necklace and take these drops she makes. And I say all these mantras. And I stopped questioning her a
It
long
works.
time ago. I did. I just shut up and listened. And at first I was like, this is kind of crazy. And then about 4 years ago, we were playing the Seahawks, and she said, you better listen to me. This is your year, but this is all the things you're going to have to do to win. And I did all those things, and by God, it worked. It was pretty good. And then in 2015, it was about early January, and she said, you know how much I love you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I just want to let you know this is not going to be your year. And of course we lost. I said, what does 16 look like? And she said, 16 is going to be your year. So it was early January this year, and I said, babe, I asking, like, do we have a chance? And she said, yeah, but you're going to have to do a lot of work, and you're really going to have to listen to me. So, man, I listened to her. And right after the game, she said, see, I did a lot of work. You do your work, I do mine. She said, you're lucky you married a witch. I'm just a good witch.
Tom Brady's
Brady.
wife, Giselle, is that her name?
Yeah.
She was the Victoria's Secret model, who is a witch. Wow. Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. So, yes, this stuff still happens today.
Yeah, so let me just pause there quickly. Many sports fans would know this guy's name, Tom Brady. This is not some second-rate footballer, and we're talking American football now. This is not some second-rate athlete somewhere down in the lesser countries of the world that nobody ever heard about. This is one of the most prominent American football players of all time, exceptionally well known and obviously really good at his job. He's a real mainstream player. His wife is a lady called Giselle, and I used to see her all my days because I was into fashion photography and that type of thing. And she was a big supermodel in the fashion world. Very tall, slim, attractive lady. As they said, she modeled for Victoria's Secret and a host of other people. She was just like everywhere. She was like a top model. Probably the top model when she was doing it. Okay? So she's a real mainstream person. These aren't Christians, but these are people who are mainstream. Everybody knows them. And what's happening here is that the lady is obviously into spiritual things, not from a Christian standpoint. She's into witch work and spiritism from the witch point of view. Now, an atheist can stand and say whatever they like, but the spiritual world is real. We Christians, we see it from our side. We see it from God's perspective and what God has said that we should and shouldn't do. We listen to the Bible, and the Bible helps us to understand what the spirit world is like. And the Lord tells us how we need to operate within it, aka we need to give the devil no rights to our lives by walking in righteousness and walking away from sin. Whenever we entertain sin and engage in sin, we open up ourselves and make ourselves vulnerable to spiritual attacks. When we walk in righteousness, we protect ourselves, or we maintain within God's protection. Okay? So God tells us how to interact with the spirit world from our perspective. But there are people out there who interact with the spirit world from a negative perspective or from an ungodly perspective, from a perspective of sorcery. So there are people going out there that would try to sell you information. So they would say, okay, come to me, give me money, and I will tell you what's going to happen in the future. Furthermore, if you give me some more money, I can help you to influence what will happen in the future. So if you do A and B and you drink this and you do this with that person and you poke this pin here and you do enough ritualistic things and you drink some blood or whatever, I'm going to create some spell or some sort of spiritual power move that's going to help you to excel or to advance in the area that you're interested in. So obviously that's divination and spiritism from the ungodly point of view. God has told us in the first 5 books of the Bible not to engage in that type of thing. Okay? But here, so the guy isn't really into this stuff. It's the wife that's into this stuff. She's into witchery and all of that type of sorcery. And she is working the witch work on behalf of her husband so that her husband can get the things that he wants. And of course, she can't do everything all the time. There are other powers that be. So she says, well, in 2015, you're not going to be able to make it. Obviously, because of the connections that she has in the spiritual world, she can arrange for it to happen, or the devil has some other agenda. She can't influence that. But here she's saying, well, we can influence what's going to happen in 2016. You need to do certain things, drink this, do that, wear this, so on and so forth. I am going to do my work, and you need to do your work as well, right? Which is what they said. Let me just pull that back in, and then we can continue.
Who does that remind you of in the sports world?
What?
Where the wife is like doing these spiritual
Oh,
practices.
that was, he's a big NFL player. Hold on, he's a quarterback.
His wife was a witch or something.
Yeah, what was his name?
Are you talking about Brady?
Oh my goodness, Brady, yes.
Any superstitions going into the game? Any special thing you carried into the game on Sunday that you had tucked away somewhere?
I did. I always, I've learned a lot from my wife over the years. She's so about the power of intention, and believing things that are really going to happen. And she always makes a little altar for me at the game because she just wills it so much. And so she put together a little altar for me that I could bring with pictures of my kids. And I have these little special stones and healing stones and protection stones. And she has me wear a necklace and take these drops she makes. And I say all these mantras. And I stopped questioning her a
it
long
works.
time ago. I did. I just shut up and listened.
So you hear the language there, straight from the occult world. She's putting together these little altars for him to bring to the games. Altars that include different paraphernalia with his family and, pictures of his children, etc. And we all know that altars are places or connection points, as it were, where humans meet demons, okay, or where humans meet spiritual beings. So in the Bible, if we look at Genesis, we will see Abraham making an altar unto the Lord, and that's where the Lord met Abraham. So he builds the altar, and God meets you there. Similarly, in the spirit world, they build an altar, and they meet the spirit there. The spirit has an invitation or an access point, as it were, through that altar. So that's what she's doing. She's telling him, okay, hold these things together, booga, 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 or whatever, and carry this to the game with you. So this is going to enable the demons to operate. You got what I'm saying? It's crazy.
And at first I was like, this is kind of crazy. And then about 4 years ago, we were playing the Seahawks, and she said, you better listen to me. This is your year, but this is all the things you're going to have to do to win. And I did all those things, and by God, it worked. It was pretty good. And then in 2015, it was about early January, and she said, you know how much I love you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I just want to let you know this is not going to be your year. Oh. And of course we lost. I said, what does 16 look like? And she said, 16 is going to be your year. So it was early January this year, and I said, babe, I asking, do we have a chance? And she said, yeah, but you're going to have to do a lot of work, and you're really going to have to listen to me. So, man, I listened to her. And right after the game, she said, see, I did a lot of work. You do your work, I do mine. She said, you're lucky you married a witch. I'm just a good witch.
Tom Brady's
Brady.
wife, Giselle, is that her name?
Yeah.
She was the Victoria's Secret model, who is a witch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. So, yes, this stuff still happens today.
Right. So just before I move on, I just want to also point out, notice how the crowd is receiving this story in a very jovial way. They think it's fun. They think it's kind of kooky. Because by and large, the devil has, over the years, trained people to diminish the spiritual world and to write it off as not real, not true. They promote the whole idea of empirical science, only that which we can prove, only that which we can see, only that which we can touch, smell, hear, taste is real. Anything else is not real. So nothing of the spirit is considered real in the modern world. That's why they don't teach it at school. They don't tell you anything about the spirit world. So for the bulk of society, any speak of the spirit world is pushed aside as not serious, not real. It's not real like how wood is real and metal is real and bricks are real and the person I can see. They don't really believe. Now, some people obviously believe, like this woman, she's a witch. She's operating in spiritual things. She definitely believes. This guy here, he's not a witch, but his wife is a witch, and he's seeing what the witch is saying to him, and he's cooperating with her, and he's seeing results. So he has some degree of belief now, but for the vast majority of people, it's not real. So notice how they're laughing and taking it like a big joke. Ah, ha, 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 ha. It's just a story. All right? All right, so let's get back.
Mae West. You heard of Mae West?
Come on, sing me sometime.
Yeah, look at this guy. He even knows a line from her movies.
Because I used
That's
to hear
impressive.
like these cartoons would say and stuff, like
That's-
Bugs Bunny and all that.
Yeah, that's actually really impressive. You've heard of Mae West?
Nope.
Never heard of Mae West. Wow. Wow. Okay, we're not going to digress here too long.
My mom is so proud right now.
So listen to this. This is Mae West right here.
1930s, motion pictures were one of the mainstays of the Great Depression, and attendance to movie theaters skyrocketed.
Hello, folks. I wish you were up here at Mr. Grauman's beautiful theater to see the grand opening of premiere of my new picture, I'm No Angel. Of course, I didn't call it I'm No Angel for nothing. Don't forget, come up and see me sometime.
Movie star Mae West was also known as the Queen of Sex and the Statue of Libido. Her work helped to topple the biblical sexual boundaries that were deeply embedded in the people of the early 20th century.
She can have a romance with somebody outside of wedlock.
I've got another man in my life.
It was pretty raw.
I don't know how many that makes.
It was pretty raunchy for that era.
Well, when I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better.
No star had greater impact in the long run than Mae West. Mae West was a one-woman sexual revolution.
So here's what's going on here. America, you have to understand the history of our country. Like, we are rooted in Christianity. This country had a lot of, like, you know,
Christian values,
Christian morals. During this era, there wasn't a lot of the stuff that we see today. I mean, our media has totally tanked, dude. We got some pretty like evil stuff out there, but that just wasn't really the case. And here comes along Mae West, which toppled over the biblical understanding of sex inside of a marriage, right? So listen to this. This is Mae West's psychic, okay? His name was Kenny Kingston, and he's reflecting back on Mae West in her life. When she was upset that no one had been able to come up with a script idea, she would walk about her room saying, "Forces, forces, please come and help me with this script." You talked about this.
I would do this kind of stuff all the time.
Right?
I would say, you know, help me with this path, help me with this thing that I'm trying to do. And I used to do automatic writing.
And when you actually invite the spirits in, so did you ever actually have experience of that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I would be trying to figure out, you know, what my next steps were, and I would ask for guidance, and then I would just start writing, and I would do automatic writing.
Would you feel your hand actually moving, or is it just like whatever was coming out of your mind?
It's more just like whatever comes out of your mind, you just start writing stuff down, and then all of a sudden you have all these ideas, and it starts to make sense.
Wow.
Did you feel like they were your own, or you knew exactly where they were coming from?
I felt like I knew I was getting guidance. I was getting
like
supernatural
you were talking about
guidance.
that download, you know, that instant knowledge right then.
Yeah, download would be different. It's more auditory, where the writing, it just flows.
Wow.
So she would get these forces to come into her and help her write a script. And then this is what would happen. She would begin to hear the voices, images, the plot was revealed to her. She would summon the stenographers and tell them to work around the clock, and she would lie in bed in a trance-like state, dictating as the spirits entered her, and she would write the scripts and hand those to the director, and that's what they'd make. This is way back when. We don't even get into the modern age yet, right? So you look at Mae West's and the movies that she made. Remember, she mentioned earlier, "I Am No Angel," right? Or she has like the sex at the sensational Mae West.
Yeah.
So these are topics that we look at today. We don't even bat an eye because we're so used to sexual bombardment, right? But this was racy stuff back then.
When you think about it, it's like the devil is writing his Bible.
That's right.
Think of how the Christian Bible was written. John on the Isle of Patmos, getting these visions and writing for our time today.
That is an excellent point.
I
He's
mean,
working
inspired.
through people. And really, like, I know this is going to sound really weird, but the Bible is a collection of a bunch of stories. And that's how we learn about God.
Right.
The devil has a collection of stories
Wow. Yeah.
in a visual format, and that's how we learn about the
him.
devil's world. That's what he's doing.
So just before we go on to the next person there, I just want to point out, so that last lady, as he was saying, America was largely founded on Christian values, Christian principles. A lot of people came over from Britain, and it was a very religious culture at first, okay? And slowly over time, the devil kept working on the society, trying to break down all the morals, all the virtues, all the principles that people would have had in society. You couldn't do certain things in society. The things that we wear today, the things that we say today, the things that we do today, you simply couldn't have done those things in the past and not have suffered greatly socially. You would have been ostracized, you would have been reprimanded, you would have been locked up in some cases. So it was a really different society. And women like her would be tools that the devil would use to start to undermine the virtuosity of the society. Okay? Now, the words that we just heard there, again, are not Christian words reading about Mae West. This is her psychic, one of her cohorts, one of her associates, telling the interviewer what Mae West was like and how she used to get through with her scripts and her stories when she was having difficulties with her writers. Her psychic, someone on her team, is disclosing for us what she used to do. She used to pray to the forces, forces, come and help me. And then she would get this supernatural force coming over her, helping her to write the sensational, as they call it, programs, right? The sexually charged programs that were obviously not from God, but that were used to start to cripple the society and start to augment and change the minds of the people about what sex is and what sex should be and what sex should not be, right? So the points that I'm trying to pull out there is that she was an instrument of the devil. She's just one. He is just bringing us up from the past to the present, showing us people that were, how far back this stuff was happening. And of course, this was happening since Bible times. But he's just referencing for us people that we have historical accounts of in the past, and he's bringing it up to modern days, showing us how people have been influenced by the devil to do the devil's work through demonic activity and influence.
How about this character, Marilyn Monroe?
Okay.
Heard of her? Okay, have you heard of her? Do you know what's really interesting? There is really not a person I have met yet, no matter what age, other than, somebody that's really, really little. But if you're old enough to watch, play on the internet or watch TV, then most people have heard of Marilyn Monroe. Mm-hmm. This person is massively famous. So here's a little video clip with Marilyn Monroe.
Monroe attributed her ability to affect the public to other entities that would inhabit her and take her over. She was known for entering into deep trances before each scene. One of Monroe's close personal psychics recalled how she would draw attention from the spirit world, asking for their guidance.
When she saw a camera, any camera, she lit up and was totally different. The moment the shot was over, she fell back into her not very interesting position. And I don't know how to explain that.
That's almost verbatim what Beyonce says about Sasha
Yeah, that's
Fierce.
exactly what I was thinking of.
I'm more reserved and I'm not very interesting, but when I'm Sasha, I can sing strong and I can do all this stuff.
Sasha is my alter ego. And when people see me, sometimes I think that when they meet me and they speak with me, they're expecting Sasha. And I'm really kind of shy, and not really shy, but more reserved, and nothing like Sasha. She can do things that I cannot do when I'm in rehearsal. I mean, I can try, but then it just doesn't happen. I can sing notes and sing strong and do all these things that when I'm just by myself, I can't do.
The second that the cameras turn on, she's someone else.
Mm-hmm.
The second you turn them off, she's totally someone else. And he says, I can't explain that.
It's interesting how they attach this man to these people. Mm-hmm. You're saying the same spirit guide for the previous person is the same
Mae
one
West.
for
Yeah, that was
Marilyn.
Kenny Kingston. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Isn't that
intentional.
interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys are around a lot of these dirty, spiritualistic things. That's why we see so much of the New Age. If the stuff that's being written is coming from these psychics and these people who are communicating with spirits, then what's the message that we're getting when we sit in a dark room and stare at a blinking light, right? Listen to what Marilyn Monroe says. Jacqueline Hyde, I'm more than two. I'm so many people, they shock me sometimes. I wish it was just me. She was tormented by the voices that she heard in her head, all the communication.
And I can relate to that. You get to a point where you allow so much in your mind, and it's like, who's the real me? And it's like, I'm just trying to discover myself. And then when I come out of it, you see, all these different thoughts and emotions that would come over you that they weren't me.
Yeah.
And it gets exhausting.
Right. And if you're opening up your chakras, you're opening up your third eye, you're opening your life to these spirits, they're just coming and flowing right into you, and then it's like confusing to you,
She was tormented, but that's just the devil being in character. For the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but the Lord comes to give life and to give it more abundantly.
All right, so again, just before we go on, so they were talking about two people there, talking about Marilyn Monroe, who everybody knows, well, most people know, and then, of course, Beyonce. And both of them are admitted to the fact that they're not living alone. Marilyn Monroe, by her quotation there, suggested that there are multiple personalities living inside of her, and she wished that it was only her. Okay? Again, this ain't no Christian. This is not Christian preaching about demons. This is a well-established, extremely popular person confessing to you that she has multiple personalities inside of her, multiple voices, and she wished that she didn't have these multiple personalities because she felt tormented or she felt stressed or negatively impacted by these spirits that were dwelling inside of her, Marilyn Monroe. And if you know anything about Marilyn Monroe, you would have recognized that she lived a very rough life, okay? A life that, one, demons are attracted to, and then, two, demons get involved in and make even worse. And then we have Beyonce speaking, and this is, right now in our day and age, a contemporary of ours. Beyonce lives right here. When I say right here, as in our current day and age, she's alive and well. Mae West is dead. The first guy that he mentioned is dead. Marilyn Monroe is dead, but Beyonce is still alive. And she's here telling us in color TV that she has a second personality living on the inside of her. And she, Beyonce by herself, is unable to do the things that that second personality is able to do. She, Beyonce, has natural ability to sing and to dance and to perform. And when she goes to rehearsals, she sings, dances, and performs. But she's saying, I can't quite sing it the way that the alter ego does it. I can't quite dance and give the energy and the performance that the spirit that lives inside of her would be able to do. So when the time comes for the big performance to happen, when the time comes for the devil's message to be propagated, that spirit comes and influences the channeler or the subject, in this case Beyonce, does its work, charges the place with that energy, sends out the performance. Our cameras record it, and our cameras sell the media and put it on videos and put it on CDs and put it on TV and propagate it all over the world. So the spirit of the devil or the devil's demon spirit comes on Beyonce, does its work. That stuff is recorded. The impact is made at the performance, and the performance is recorded, and the recording is sent out. Okay? You will also notice with Marilyn Monroe, what the guy says, when the cameras were on, any camera, the moment the camera turned on, she turned into a different person. Okay, again, that spirit took control when the limelight was on Marilyn Monroe, and that spirit did its work and projected a person, projected a carnal, super sensual, rebellious, sexy vixen type of story. And of course, they're doing it in such a way as to be appealing and to be somewhat so that it resonates with people. Don't forget, every man, even Christians, we have the carnal nature, and our carnal nature can be targeted. Okay? Even the best Christian man or the best Christian woman, they have carnal desires as well. So those spirits come and they speak in such a way, and they try to glorify sinful behavior, and they try to present it in a way that it is interesting and catchy and somewhat appealing or attractive or entertaining. And by their own admission, Marilyn Monroe is saying, you know, she's not really like that by herself. Beyonce is saying, I'm not like that by myself. It's only when the influence of these spirits come on me that I almost become a totally different person for that time that I'm under the influence of the spirit. This ain't Christian saying it. This is not even, in Beyonce's case, this is not even a third party saying it. Because we're hearing the writings of this guy Kenny, who was associated with Mae West, and he's telling us what Mae West was like and what she did. And he's telling us what Marilyn Monroe was like and what she did. But Beyonce herself is telling us in broad daylight on TV, right, in color TV, just not too long ago, that spirits inhabit her and do their work through her. It ain't no Christian telling you. It's Beyonce herself telling you what she's like and what she's up to. Okay? So, of course, there's a lot more video to go, but we're going to close here tonight because our time is up. But it just goes to show that deep down inside, people know that there is a spirit world. The Christians speak of it. The devils speak of it. The devil's children speaks of it. God's children speaks of it. Okay? It is not Christians only that believe in the spirit world. It's not witch doctors that just cut off people's chickens' heads and poke at frogs somewhere down in the bushes in Africa or Haiti that believe in the spirit world. These are mainstream headliner people. Beyonce, mainstream, top of the class when it comes to entertainment and music. Giselle, top of the class when it comes to fashion and modeling. Tom Brady, top of the class when it comes to American football. And the other people, Marilyn Monroe, these are top people in terms of the world establishment. From their own mouths, they're saying, hey, this is what we're like. This is what I am. And I am involved with spiritual beings. I'm involved with forces, etc. All right? So right now, let me just close with prayer. And let's continue next week, God willing. So Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for your grace and mercy. I want to thank you for the insight again that you give us through your word, through your spirit, and through the work of your children. These guys here in America, I assume, have been doing some research, and here they are sharing with us the testimonies of certain of these characters, showing us how largely, and these are only the people that they have chosen to feature, and the people for whom we have quotations and so on. But not only these people, but so many other people in Hollywood are more than likely practicing all types of spiritual wickedness, inviting demons into their lives to influence what they do and how they do it. We saw that the first guy mentioned in this film that his wife would communicate with spirits. We saw that Mae West would channel spirits. We saw that Marilyn Monroe was a host of demons who would influence her behavior. And Beyonce, by her own admission, is a host of demons who would influence her behavior. And there's so many more. So, Lord, thank you for the work that these guys have done. And there's so many other people doing this work. But through your word, through the own testimony of these people, we can see the reality of the devil and his works. And we can avoid them and reject them and identify them when they're happening. Please help your children to reject the offerings of these people, their music, their acting, their merchandise, their endorsement. Please help us to have no affiliation with such. Help us not to be interested in them. Help us not to accept their work. Help us not to listen to their message. Help us to reject what they have to offer and to disassociate ourselves from their overall essence and their overall message. Please help us to be in alignment with you and your spirit, and that your Holy Spirit would indeed come into our lives and influence our lives into righteousness and holiness and positive behavior. So, Father, again, we just thank you for being with us tonight. I pray that you protect us throughout this week, bring us to prayer meeting and to Bible study next week. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Hi guys, Joel Brooks here at the Insight Podcast. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video or found it informative, interesting, or helpful in any way, please give it a like and consider sharing it with your friends. If you want to stay connected, you can check us out at our website, insight.joelbrooksonline.com, and you can also check us out on social media. Links in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and God bless.